your body is lying still in the dark. Your eyes are closed. To anyone watching, you are completely switched off. But inside your skull, something wild is happening. Your brain is blazing with activity, almost as busy as when you were awake. You are running from something, or flying, or talking to someone who died years ago. And none of it feels strange until you wake up. Every night you go somewhere. You lose hours to a world that does not exist, built entirely inside your own head. And here's the question almost no one stops to ask. Why? Why would evolution, which is ruthless about wasting energy, let you spend years of your life hallucinating in the dark? For roughly 300,000 years, your ancestors closed their eyes and dreamed, exactly as you do. And there is one strange detail about dreaming that suggests it is not a random glitch at all. It suggests dreaming is a tool, a survival tool, forged in a far more dangerous world than yours. Hold on to that, because by the end, you may never think of a nightmare the same way again. First, let's establish something incredible. For most of history, no one even knew dreaming had a shape. Then, in 1953, two researchers named Eugene Azarinsky and Nathaniel Kleitman were studying sleeping people, and they noticed something bizarre. At certain points in the night, beneath closed eyelids, the eyes would suddenly start darting back and forth, rapidly, as if watching a scene. They had discovered what we now call REM sleep, rapid eye movement, and when they woke people during these bursts, the sleepers almost always reported the same thing. They had been dreaming. This was a stunning realization. Dreaming was not random. It was tied to a specific, recurring brain state that switches on again and again through the night. Your brain schedules this. Every single night without fail, it sets aside time to generate these vivid inner films. Evolution does not schedule pointless things. So what is the point? To understand it, you have to stop thinking like a modern person, safe in a locked house, and start thinking like your ancestor. Picture the world your mind actually evolved in. You sleep on the ground. Predators hunt in the dark. A single mistake, a missed sound, a wrong move when a leopard charges means death. In that world, survival depended on one brutal skill: being ready for danger. And this is where one scientist proposed a genuinely chilling idea about what your nightmares are really for. His name is Antti, a Finnish researcher, and he put forward what is called the threat simulation theory. The idea is this: a dream, especially a frightening one, is your brain running a safe rehearsal of danger. At night, in a body that cannot get hurt, your mind stages threats over and over. Being chased, falling, being attacked, losing someone. And every time it does, it practices the response. Fear, flight, fast decisions. Think about how many of your worst dreams follow this exact pattern. Something is chasing you. You are running and your legs won't work. You are falling. You are being hunted. These are not random horrors. According to Revan, they are ancient fire drills. Your brain, for hundreds of thousands of years, has been using the safety of sleep to train you for the emergencies of waking life. A dream is a threat you get to survive with no real cost. And there is evidence that this deep pattern is still alive in people who live closer to the ancestral world. A sleep researcher named David Sampson has studied dreams in communities like the Hadza and the Biaka, hunter-gatherers whose lives are far more physically dangerous than ours. And in their dreams, threat is everywhere. Animals, conflict, danger. But something remarkable happens inside those dreams. The threat often resolves. The dreamer is rescued by a companion, or finds a solution, or the danger is overcome. Their dreams take a fear and work it into a story with a way out. The nightmare, in a sense, becomes practice for coping. So let's reconstruct a night deep in your ancestry. You fall asleep by a dying fire, and your brain begins its work. It replays the leopard you saw at the waterhole that day. But this time it lets you rehearse the escape. It takes the fear of losing a child and runs the scenario, so the feeling is a little more familiar, a little less shattering if it ever comes true. You wake at dawn having lived through a dozen disasters and survived every one. You are, without knowing it, better prepared for a world that is trying to kill you. But threat rehearsal is only part of the story, because dreaming does something else, something to do with the wounds you carry. Here we turn to the work of a sleep scientist named Matthew Walker. He and others have shown that the dreaming brain during REM sleep does something like emotional healing. When you experience something painful, the memory comes bound to raw emotion. During REM dreaming, the brain appears to replay these memories, but in a special chemical state, one where certain stress-related chemicals are switched off. It is as if the mind takes the difficult memory and slowly strips away its emotional sting night after night. while keeping the lesson. Walker calls this, memorably, overnight therapy. You go to sleep raw, and you wake up a little more able to bear it. This is why, after a hard day, people so often say, "Let me sleep on it." Your dreaming brain is quietly processing your fear and grief while you lie unconscious, so that the memory survives but the pain is softened. For an ancestor who watched loss and violence regularly, this was not a luxury. It was how you stayed functional, how you got up the next morning and kept living. Now, not every scientist agrees that dreams have such a clear purpose. And this is where honesty matters. Decades ago, two researchers named Alan Hobson and Robert McCarley proposed something more deflating. They argued that during REM sleep, the base of the brain fires off nearly random signals, and the higher brain, desperate to make sense of the chaos, weaves them into a story on the fly. In this view, the dream is not a message. It is the mind improvising meaning out of noise. But here is the fascinating part. Even if dreams begin as noise, the way your brain chooses to weave that noise is not random at all. Why does it so often reach for chase, threat, falling, and loss? Why fear, again and again, rather than a calm afternoon? Even a brain making sense of static seems to reach by default for the emotional themes that mattered most to survival. The raw material may be chaos, but the story your mind builds from it still points, over and over, at danger and the people you cannot afford to lose. So step back and look at what dreaming really is. Every night, your brain powers up a private simulator. In it, you rehearse the threats that once meant life or death. You practice fear in a place where fear cannot kill you. You take the emotional wounds of your day and slowly file down their sharpest edges. And you do all of this for free, in the dark, while your body rests. And here is the twist that reframes everything. That terrifying nightmare, the one that jolts you awake with your heart pounding, the one you would give anything not to have, may not be a malfunction. It may be one of the oldest and most sophisticated survival tools your species ever evolved, still running every night in a world that no longer needs it quite so badly. Your ancestors lived surrounded by real predators, real starvation, real loss. Their dreams were a nightly training ground for all of it. You have inherited that same machinery. It still switches on. It still runs its ancient drills, even though your leopards are now deadlines, and your falls are now embarrassments, and your losses are the ordinary heartbreaks of a modern life. So think back to your body, lying still in the dark, eyes closed, apparently switched off. You are not switched off at all. You are in the oldest theater in the world, one your ancestors built over hundreds of thousands of years, where every night you quietly rehearse how to survive, how to fear, and how to carry your grief into the morning. You go somewhere every night. Now you know why. It is the same place your ancestors went, 300,000 years ago, by a dying fire, learning in their sleep how to face a dangerous world and waking, like you, having survived it.